You talked about how the live guys not being there created an opportunity for like the back half of that European roster, which I completely agree with, to kind of get some experience and play for the first time and establish themselves as future Ryder Cuppers. I'm going to read you two statements I thought were really interesting from Rory McIlroy and Shane Lowry. So this is Rory talking about the live guys that weren't there. So the one thing I would say is they've had unbelievable Ryder Cup careers and they've made their choices and they've done what they've done, and no one can take the impact that they've had for the European team over the years. But I feel like this week, not having those big personalities in the team room let other guys have that chance to flourish and to shine. Victor, John, myself. There wasn't a ton of space taken up in that room by some of the other big personalities, and I think that let the rest of the team just sort of flourish. It's a young team. We can all grow together. I could potentially be the oldest person on the team next time. It's a new era, and it's a pretty good one. And then this is Shane Lowry. I think not having those guys there this week gave certain guys the opportunity to be something different in the team room. And I think that made a big difference. We've had 3 of the world's top 4 players in the team room this week. Those guys, live guys, are obviously big Ryder Cup legends and have been amazing. But if they had been in the team room, maybe Rory, John, and Victor wouldn't have been what they were this week. That was really interesting to me and powerful, I thought.
I think so, because, going into the Ryder Cup, you felt Victor, John Rahm, and Rory McIlroy, if they played well, that it would be Europe would probably win, because they were going to play the most matches. And I mean, just doing simple math, you got to think they earn close to, if they just have other guys show up, they win. And it not only did they have other guys show up, they had even the back half guys like Robert McIntyre getting 2.5 points, which is just like, after watching him play, you were like, how are we not beating this guy? And listen, dude, he hit some sick shots. But like, if you compare him to, like, from a talent standpoint of all 24 guys, like, you could tell he was nervous. Like, I could see it in his face. Like, it's just a different breed of dudes. But like, dude, he showed up. He had Justin Rose, which helped him a ton, because he's playing with the guy who's putting best in the field. So when you have a guy that's winning holes for you, making putts, you can kind of slide in and play your golf as well. And like, when you have a guy like Bobby Mack winning 2.5 points, like, holy crap. Like, I just didn't have that on my bingo card.
Winning 2.5 points as the guy who had the 3rd worst strokes gain total in the field. I mean, that
was a ham and egg experience.
experience. I'm curious on this Euro thing, because obviously we have no clue how this PIF, PGA Tour, DP World Tour thing is going to come into focus in the coming months. And kind of going back to the captain thing with Luke, it's like there are clearly guys that are with Liv now that will love to have that role. Sergio Garcia, Ian Poulter, among many. Yeah. Could you see this getting really interesting for that Euro team in future years if a deal gets struck? Because I mean, you can't imagine. I mean, Shane Lowry is getting older, right? But Rory's going to be kind of a presence on that team as a leader or a player or whatever in the future years. And he has said what he said. That's going to kind of make it tough for a way back for those guys.
Oh, 100%. Definitely Rory's stance on it's been pretty evident throughout the entire process, where he feels the game is at and where the European Ryder Cup team is definitely a non-live deal now. But one of the things that I'll mention as well, I had a Q&A session with Tony Jacklin while at the Ryder Cup, and he's obviously you throw him up there from a European standpoint right behind Seve as far as just what he provided, as far as his how many Ryder Cups he played in. He was like 7 of them, and he was the first captain to win on foreign soil from the European side. So he's a guy that he's seen it all. He's been a part of the European team room forever. And I asked him this question. I said, all right, so, these guys, Ian Poulter, Sergio Garcia, Paul Casey, Henrik Stenson, Graham McDowell, all of these players that went to Live Golf. Let's say 2 years from now, Live Golf ceases to exist, and that the Live Golf players would be eligible to come back to be a part of the Ryder Cup. Do you think that they should be involved in any form in the future? And for some of the questions that I asked him, like, he would give it some thought and just like sit there and think about it, then give an answer. This one, he said no, like just immediately no. And it was like, and he had this stare of like, and the reason he gave, he said, you know what, these guys made their decisions. Like he said, they had all the money in the world, and he just accredited it to, just basic greed. He's like, I think these guys made their decision. They took the money. Now just kind of do your thing. And that was his stance on it. I was surprised to hear that answer, because I thought he was going to say, well, you know what? I was just so happy that we got buy-in from, a generation after, that we were able to pass on the torch to these guys, and that they were able to kind of believe in everything of playing for one another, playing for Europe, and, playing for the, just the legend of Seve. And that's kind of what the team room still has. But you would have thought somebody that was probably in and around those team rooms with all of those players I just mentioned. And he immediately just cast him and say, no. I was so shocked to hear that answer. And here's a guy that had played 8 Ryder Cups or however many, and captain in so many. That one really struck it just made me think. I was like, holy crap. Like that is a strong answer. So hopefully that gives just a little bit of insight where some European greats feel about the whole situation.
And I think that's huge, because as we saw all week, there's a clear reverence for past legends. I guess the past legends that didn't go to live, but past legends of that European team, of course, with the Seve tributes and the locker and all that. And so when a guy like that, who's clearly someone who's still respected, offers an opinion that strong, that's going to echo through those hallways as they kind of sort out what's going to happen next for this team. So a really interesting one to keep an eye on. And I think when you have a team that was this successful, it feels like a new dawn for them, whether some of those guys, whether the Justin Roses or the Shane Lowrys age out, that young nucleus should theoretically remain the same or similar. So
you know what America was missing this week? They really were missing Will Zalatoris and Cameron Young in form.
Man, that is a really, really good point.
Those two guys, when they're in form, they're just as good as the top players in the world. And I feel like they were missing that form of talent. And just like, dude, like, I mean, when you watch this guys hit a golf ball and how close they can hit it to the hole you pair them up with anybody. I mean, you think you can make an argument about, would Willie Z's putter have been very good at an away Ryder Cup? I don't know. I mean, but I mean,
did you, by the way, have you seen the images online? What Zalatoris is experimenting with?
Oh, what's he got? The broom?
Broom time, baby.
Dude.
Broom time.
It's broom time.
Come on over, baby. Broom time. And it's a lab broom too. So we might be broom brothers pretty soon.
I like that. I think there's no doubt about it that he's got some form of yip, that it's undeniable. Like, I think he's embraced it so well, because I think he's acknowledged it to the point to where he's aware of the issue. He's openly talking about it, but he's not going to tell you, yes, I have the yips. But like, we all know, like we're just, I think there's a lot more players now, and this is a topic for another day, that embrace the word yip. I think they realize it's something that they cannot control, and they've been something that you would always be embarrassed by. You don't know how to handle it. Like, what's my next move? Because everything that my brain tells me is don't seek help, try to figure it out, which is how athletes are basically. It's how you get from one day to the next, just to stay afloat. But man, good to hear that with Willie Z. But I really think a guy like him and Cameron Young, and I didn't advocate for Cameron Young to be on this team. He was not somebody I felt like was necessarily a lock to be on the team. Could he have been picked? Like, just like the other guys, like I think he totally could have been picked. But those guys are all world talents that when they're in form, I think can really help the nucleus of the next team. And it's nice to know you have those guys in the bullpen that just weren't even there.
Well, it's so funny. It's like when you said, it's such a good call, because when you said Will's name, I was like, golly, I haven't even thought about him for months. You just kind of forget. Another guy I haven't thought about, and I'm not recommending him for this team, but I mean, Daniel Berger was on the Whistling Straits team. Like, I don't even know where Daniel Berger is. And I'm not, again, not like some young guy that's in the mix, but like there are guys that have been, some of the best golfers in the world that are American the past couple of years that have just dealt with stuff that derailed them. And if you have those guys back in the mix,
another wave's coming too. Like we're talking, like, would it shock you to see if Gordon Sargent or Nick Dunlap?
Nick Dunlap almost shot a 59 in Maidstone, flipped out that putt on 18.
It just wouldn't surprise me because like Ludwig Aubert had a similar type of rise. Like he went from a spring at Texas Tech to not playing in a major to being on the Ryder Cup team. Like who's to say that Gordon Sargent or Nick Dunlap aren't going to be on the next Ryder Cup team? I think you can make an argument that there's a good chance that one of them might be on it.
Aubert carrying his bag at Texas Tech in April and May.
Maybe on the Ryder Cup team.
Maybe even push carding. I mean, it's such a good story. I do want to kind of move over to the American side of things, and there's a lot we can unpack for players, but there are two kind of guys that I want to key on, and you just talked a little bit about putting, so let's start there with Scotty Scheffler. I just don't know what to make of this week. I mean, if we go back to that Data Golf report and we look at strokes gained putting, he was the fourth worst putter in this field. But again, it's a small field, 24 guys. So the baseline number is, maybe this is a larger field, he's a little bit higher on that list. But still, I felt like, just in my own anecdotal experience, like the putts that I saw, like it was passing the eye test a little bit better than what I'd seen throughout the PGA Tour season. But, again, you would maybe like to see him make a few more putts than he did to be a little bit higher on that list than putting if he made some big change. And you got to give him maybe a little bit grace. This is his first tournament working with Phil Kenyon, and I'm sure he'll do more work in the offseason.
Totally.
But what do you, I mean, how do you lead this weekend thinking about Scotty Scheffler, given that he's now 0-5-3, including the last President's Cup, and seemed to really be wearing it hard that he didn't play as well as he would have liked to?
Yeah, no, he definitely was. And, I got a chance to watch him and Phil Kenyon work, and I really do think they're working on the correct stuff. I think he's got a good plan moving forward. So yes, like you said, first week, but they've been working for about a month, but still first week really being at a golf tournament, going through those practice routines that you've been working on and seeing how it's going to work on one of the biggest stages in golf. It might be some, a little bit of time for it to actually kick in, but I'll say this, I think that when it comes to the top four players in the world and where Scotty sits on that list, currently number one in the world, it just seems like I have those three other guys slotted in front of him just because of that putter. And if Scotty just was average with the putter, he would be, I think when Scotty and Rory are on ball striking, it's as good as anybody in the world. And then you throw John Rahm and Viktor Hovland, just how, Viktor Hovland got up and down all week. I started seeing at the beginning of the year that this kid's short game has changed, and I was buying stock. I'm like, give me Viktor Hovland stock and give it all to me. I don't care about the outfits. Give me Viktor Hovland week in and week out, because this kid is unbelievable. And I don't even know what the question where we started with Scotty show. I'm just sitting here talking about these guys. And,
well, Vic is don't stop talking about Viktor Hovland, because golly, what a tone setter too, to chip in from the green on the first hole. Like, hey, if you guys had any questions about my short game, I saw a video on Instagram of Joe Mayo, who's obviously worked with Vic on his short game. And he said something that just like resonated so strongly, which was, this guy can like flag a 2-iron from 250 yards. You're telling me this guy can't figure out how to chip? I just don't believe that. You know what I mean? I can't compute that. So I know we're on a bit of a diversion from Scotty, but really let's give Vic his flowers for all the work he's put in this year, and where he's arguably the best player in the world right now.
Yeah, it totally is. And just one other guy too, Rory, man, I watched him on Sunday, and he was paired up against Sam Burns, and dude, it was stupid, man. He should have been like, I think he was 6 under through 12 holes, and he should have been 8 or 9. And Sam didn't have a chance, man. Like, Sam didn't play bad either. He played pretty well. He made I think he made 1 or almost 2 eagles. He played well, but dude, nobody was beating Rory out there. And it really would be a shame for Rory's career to end at the major title that he has, because what I've seen from him this year, it's like, he's the most frustrating player I've ever watched, because I'm telling you, dude, it is that good. Like, you would not believe how good this guy is. And I don't know what it's going to be for him to win a major championship? Like, what has to happen? Like, is it just getting off to faster starts? Like, it just seems like something, whether it's the putter or something goes, some like a one bad tee shot. It's always just one little thing to keep him from winning a major. And I'm really hoping that he gets one next year, because the dude's talent and what he's able to do with a golf ball is just sickening.
Oh man, I mean, to win at Augusta would be like unbelievably good or unbelievably cool, I would say. I wonder if, do you think this holds any water? Like, do you think in some ways our media obsession with the Scotty putting stats kind of overshadowed how close Rory got numerous times this season? You know what I mean? Because that was the story of the guy that if he could just putt would win every single major.
Rory should have won the Open.
Yeah.
Like, at least he should have been right there with
U.S. Open you're talking about, right? With Wyndham, or are you talking about the Open Championship?
No, the Open with Brian.
Oh.
Like, I thought his ball striking that week was stupid and like could not make anything. Wow. Same with the U.S. Open. I'm sure. Yeah. I don't think I watched Rory I watched him a little bit. I'm sure he hit it great and just didn't make anything. But that was the theme this year. Is just like, dude, the putting was just so bad for Rory and so bad for Scotty. And then Jon Rahm was like kind of like unbelievable with everything, and then he was like not so great, and then he was great. Like, he just had an inconsistent year. And then Vic, my boy Vic, buying stock. That guy's sick.
Home. Buy stock. Let's detour here, because we kind of talked a little bit about, you talked about Rory and that singles match playing against Sam Burns. And so we looked at this Data Golf report, and the same thing stood out to both of us where Sam landed on this. So in order of strokes gained, Vic was first, Rahm second, Rory third, Tommy Fleetwood fourth, then Patrick Cantlay, Max Homa, Tyrrell Hatton. Sam Burns is the next player on that list. And he was the second best putter of anyone in the field. And again, we take all this with a grain of salt, because even when a player is out of a hole or close to it, the shots still count toward these numbers. But this paints a picture of how good he was this week. And this is now going back to two competitions, back to the President's Cup, where people leave and say, oh, he only won one match here, he only won 1 point, but he actually played really, really good this week.
Dude, he's a guy that I think doesn't get enough credit for how good he is at golf. I think this year he really struggled with his ball striking, and the statistics will show that, and he'll admit that himself. And if you talk to his coach, he'll probably say, yeah, like, we just been off this year with the ball striking. It happens. But good thing for Sam is he'll have the offseason to go work on it. And I guarantee you, because his golf swing's not overly complicated, it can't be that much wrong with it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And he's a guy that has the speed. He has all the shots. Okay, let's say he goes and figures out his ball striking, gets it back to being, let's just say he's has a top 10 year ball striking wise. Dude, who's to say that guy can't win 4 or 5 times on the PGA Tour and win a major? I'm not betting against it if he gets his ball striking in order, because, dude, like you said, President's Cup and Ryder Cup have performed well in both, like statistically wise, like so well, just has not gotten points. So that it's a little bit of a tell in the fact that, we talk about guys that have successful weeks and the Ryder Cups and President's Cups. He can't necessarily take the same thing that Scotty Scheffler was able to take, or Jordan Spieth was able to take from big winning matches that everybody remembers. But I think he's eventually going to be able to use just a little bit of that juice that from a President's Cup, Ryder Cup of coming down those matches and winning big points. And it hadn't really worked out for him, but still we know he's played well. And to kind of go off to another guy, Max Homa, like what he did making that putt and knowing what that feels like and how bad and how poorly he's been in major championships. You have to think Max Homa going into next year, Charlie, is going to have like, he knows what it's going to take, and whether he pulls it off or not, I think that's the next question. Is Max Homa in major championships next year, right?
100%. Wins 3.5 points, the most of any American player this last week. I saw a clip from he was on with No Laying Up talking about that last putt, the putt on 18 that he needs to make to keep Team USA alive, and just talking about how like this is not something that you're growing up as a kid and when you're on the putting green, you're like, this is the putt to win the Ryder Cup. It's not, this is the putt to not lose the Ryder Cup. You know what I mean? And he described it as like, I felt like there were 50 phones strapped to my legs, all vibrating at the same time. Just my legs were just shaking like crazy. And so I mean, first of all, Max is delightful and a great talker, and but I also thought it was cool to hear him describe a process of like, if you're in that high leverage of a situation and you can still just make it happen, make a putt, get the win that your team needs. Absolutely, I agree with you that should translate into next year. And maybe that's what he needed after a year where he didn't play well in 3 of the 4 majors. Wishes he probably could have played a little bit better. Played a little bit better at the Open. But maybe that's kind of the kickstart he needs going in. And this next year is going to be the year of Max Homa.
Yeah, because like you can argue with Max, like his, as far as just like his overall game, I feel like you can say like this guy can check off every box. There's not really any weaknesses in his game. Mm-hmm. It's just like the belief. I think that's all he needed. It's just a little bit more belief. He's a player that when he gets confidence and belief in himself, he then realizes like, I can go do this. And I think that putt on 18 is going to mean something sometime next year at a major championship, on whether it's on the 18th hole, the 17th hole, that wins him a major, because I think you can't underestimate how important that moment was on 18.
I mean, Jordan Spieth talked about this when he was on the pod a couple of months ago, talking about Scotty Scheffler at Whistling Straits. This could be the guy that makes that jump with that level of confidence. A lot of people this week, hey, is Max the new Captain America? Is Max the new Captain America? All right, I got a pitch for you, right? Max's nickname, Max Homerica.
Huh. I kind of like Maximus this week, just being the Roman Empire
Maximus?
thing.
Okay, good. All right.
I kind of like Maximus. But
it's admittedly a worse idea than maybe the Zurich Classic move, but it's an idea. It's an idea. I mean, it falls into the idea bucket.
Listen, there's no such thing as a bad idea on this pod. So keep coming.
Roughly. All right. Well, that's kind of the guys we wanted to kind of hit on both sides. Obviously, we could go on for another hour talking about everybody, but I think those are the biggest storylines.
Yeah, and Hatton. I mean, that's my guy. Like I told you before the week, like this guy needed to knock the door down, and he did, dude. So I just wanted to throw that out there, that I was happy to see.
And Fleetwood, you mentioned Fleetwood as well. I mean, those are your two guys, not sleepers, but you're saying these guys play well, and they're there right at the top of the list.
Yeah, I kind of felt like Fleetwood was going to be a no-brainer to play well, but I really felt like that Hatton and Fitzpatrick were two guys I just didn't know if they were going to pull it off. I had more belief in Tommy because of how successful he was with Francesco in Italy and in Paris, or not Italy, in Paris for the Ryder Cup. So I knew he's done it before, but Hatton's Ryder Cup record and Fitzpatrick's Ryder Cup record weren't necessarily as evident or as black and white and as easy to see as Tommy. So good to see my man Hatton getting it done.